it's 7 o'clock, and I call the meeting to order, and can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And before we make an approval of the agenda, there is an alteration to the agenda. We forgot Bronson.
And that's totally my fault. It's been a while since we've had student update. We talked about student update, and then when I went
Can
to
we
the
introduce
agenda,
him?
We
Yeah.
could.
And
Yes.
actually, we'll have Bronson say a little bit about himself when we get to that part
Okay.
of the agenda. But Bronson Patch is our student board member this year, which is fantastic. We're glad to have him.
And where are we inserting that?
We are inserting him after number 6.
Okay. So
Of
between
the-
6 and 7.
Yeah. And then next agenda will definitely
How's
get
that
him
feel, Bronson?
in their spot. So with that change, do I have an approval of the agenda?
So move.
Any second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Anything else we got to tweak? All right, all in favor? Oh, I keep forgetting Josh is up there. I gotta remember. Okay, any public input and announcements? I don't have any.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, and do I have an approval of the minutes from 10:18?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any edits?
I do have one.
Okay.
I gotta find it. Do, do, do. My apologies. Under section 8, we were talking about board goals. Halfway down, there's a section where we're talking about where we can post, like the Timoth.
Yep.
And the Shrewsbury, it says Nick states that there is also a Timoth Tales. I believe that was Josh that mentioned Timoth Tales. That is my only edit.
Okay. So switch Nick out to Josh there.
Yep.
Okay.
As long as nobody objects.
Not unless you guys want to
Josh is shaking
teleport
his
and
head.
change positions. All right, so with that change, do all in favor? All right, thank you. Next is our MRU update, middle school and the workshop, wood shop. Who wants to go first? As far as,
Rock, paper,
Well, we
scissors
have-
for it.
Ed, you're up. I'm calling on you.
All right. Yeah, so thanks for bringing the wood shop back, first of all. I think students are stoked to be in there and really excited to be working in the wood shop again. Yeah, and so far things are going smoothly, things are going really well. I've been able to establish a partnership with Marshville and Rockefeller National Park, and we're planning a field trip there next week, where they've donated probably around $5,000 or $6,000 worth of wood to the wood shop. Which is huge. And then with that, we're going to be displaying some of the student work in the visitor center at the park, and then kind of rotating that in and out so that'll come back to students eventually. And so they're able to keep what they make, but also display it at the park and kind of showcase what we're building as well as what the park is able to provide the community and provide us. So it's been great so far. Yeah, and yeah, thank you to Jody and to Kaylin and everyone else who's involved with the grant to get the new tools that we have in there. That's been extremely helpful. And yeah, like thinking about the future, I'm hoping next year to offer a building for a community class where the focus will be like what can we build for for the elementary schools, or what can we build for the national park, hopefully as a partnership further down the line, or build for the national park, who's donating a lot of wood to us. So with the thought of like building like a book walk at all of our elementary schools eventually, like around the recess area or down a trail at one of our schools, so that students can kind of get outside, but also get that literacy stimulation while they're outside too. And so I've talked to Karen McCall about that already, and she's totally on board to help us pick up books and help get that rolling next year. And so those are kind of the hopeful future things that we have going, and the things that we have going on now. Yeah. Questions that y'all might have?
Ed, what sort of projects are the kids doing? I mean, can you just give us a
Oh,
little
great.
describe?
Yeah, so one of the big themes I'm trying to hit is how can we build community with woodshop? So my high schoolers are building cube sets, which is a really fun lawn game that students can take home and then play outside against other people, or like to kind of like have that camaraderie and community building experience of playing a game together. My middle schoolers right now, they built some spoons already, and that was kind of an introduction to kind of all the tools in the woodshop, because they kind of got to use almost everything in there to build their spoons. And then next, what they're on right now is building a corridor game. So they're building a literal board game. And so with that, the goal of the game is that when it's your turn, you can either put up a wall or move your piece one square forward. And your goal is to get to the other side of the board before your opponent gets there. With that game, once we have enough games set, we're gonna put those in the lunchroom, and students are gonna be able to play in the lunchroom and hopefully get them off their phone and talking to one another, communicating to each other in person instead of on their phones. And then hopefully set up a tournament with that game once students kind of get to know it a little bit, so that we have kind of a medley of students who might not hang out together, kind of meeting each other in a different experience, rather than being kind of always separated from one another. So they get to intermingle with each other in that lunchroom and in that experience. And so that's kind of the goals where we're at right now. The other projects, high schoolers are making a folding table. Some are making spoons as well, because they saw the middle school spoons and like those. Others are making a rolling pin, a lathe. And so they're kind of all over the place right now with the high school projects, and the middle school projects are a little more focused to keep middle school a little more organized.
My son's making all of his Christmas presents.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm encouraging him to do that. Like, what can we make for Christmas this year? What do you want to make? Yeah.
Yep. Len?
Just because I don't know, what programs are you actually offering for the students? Because I don't know. I mean, is it woodworking 1, woodworking 2? I don't know.
Yeah, right now it's the first year, so everything's kind of woodworking 1. And students have the option to also get an art credit if they'd like that as well, or at least in the high school level. And basically with that, they'll have to make at least 3 pieces and write a little paragraph on what they chose and why they made them, and then show them in the art case or the art ceremony at the end of the semester, and kind of show those off through that. And so they can get that art credit, or they can get the elective credit of woodshop right now. Yeah.
Is it at this point just woodworking that you're offering?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so next year I'd like to introduce that building for community piece and see how many students want to buy into that and kind of build for others, or build for the elementary school, or build for whatever projects we can take on and figure out.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I think it's great that we even got this started, so, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Bruce?
I was just curious about enrollment.
I'm pretty much maxed out. Like I'm limiting it to 15 students per block, mostly because there's like there's usually a log jam at like a saw or at a certain tool. And so that waiting piece can be hard for students, and so making sure that the safety is a key feature in the wood shop, and that everyone's using everything safely and not messing around when they're not able to use the tool at the time. So just keeping the numbers relatively low in that 15 range. And so I know this semester's maxed out. I think I have like 1 or 2 spots available next semester as well. The students want to be there, so that feels good.
How many periods are you doing?
6 blocks, so 4 high school and 2 middle school. And then flex block as well has been interesting, where I have a lot of students who aren't even in my wood shop wanting to come in and like use a wood burner during flex, or use some of the hand tools during flex. I allow hand tools for students who aren't in the wood shop. I allow them to use hand tools, not power tools, during flex time. If they want to come in and kind of just see what it's like and try things out.
Yes.
Are the kids able to use any stains, lacquers, paints, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, good question. I also reached out to Vermont Natural Coatings, and they donated, I think it was like 24 quarts of paint and polyurethane as well. And so that's been really nice to use. And I'm basically I'm emailing them pictures of students' projects that they're going to put on social media as kind of that swap for their donation. And that's been really great, because that stuff, their products are really low in VOCs, and so it's not just clouding up the whole wood shop full of the smell of stain and polyurethane. So things a little safer for students and for me in there as well.
Nick?
So I've heard a lot of positive from the community about the wood shop, so congratulations on that. I was gonna dovetail off of Bruce's capacity. So capacity right now is because of teacher or because of?
Well, I think space is
Space.
probably limiting too, because say we were to hire a second teacher, we still have that one space, and I think we still hit those same bottlenecks that Ed was talking about, and safety, I think, does become more concerning.
So then my next thing, you talked about new tools. Can you highlight some of those? And then you mentioned some donation of wood, which sounded like a large quantity. Is it softwood, hardwood? Can you just kind of throw some of that out there?
Oh, sure. It's mostly softwood, mostly pine, a little bit of ash, and it's anywhere from like 1x6 to 1x12 as well. They donated this really nice live slab as well, this live edge slab that we're going to try and turn into a table for someplace in the school. And there's some 2-inch, 2x, it's roughly like 8 to 10 inch or so pine as well. And that was all to the Marsh Billings Rockefeller National Park, who they want to keep partnering us with us next year as well. And so they seem really excited about being able to use their lumber for our wood shop, because basically they use they sustainably harvest their forest and then mill it on site as part of their teaching of sustainably forestry in the park.
Yep.
And so they have this lumber that they mill and that they're cutting, and so they don't really have anything to do with it necessarily. And so we're happy to take it off their hands.
And then you had mentioned some new tools that we had gotten. Can you?
Yeah. Sure. So we got some new drills and impact drivers. We got a brand new double bevel miter saw. We got just a tune-up on a lot of the old tools as well through that grant, because some of the old tools in there needed some work. They're still
It
really
looks
solid,
exactly
but
like wood
needed
shop
it.
when we were in school. It hasn't moved.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It just hasn't
Yeah.
changed. Equipment and all.
Those old paramedics are just tanks. They just keep going. There's a new lathe that I still need to set up, but we'll have multiple lathes in the wood shop, because students really seem to enjoy using those. Yeah, we're just kind of picking away, and there's a lot of little things like a new sharpening stone and a new sharpener guide for chisels and that kind of thing. Some new hand tools like wood gouges for students to kind of carve and initial wood with. And so, yeah.
They've been utilizing
Sorry.
utilizing Karen McCullough a lot for the decal, stencils.
Yes, yes.
Wood burn.
Aaron has been a great partner in this as well. The Makerspace has a vinyl cutter, which students can make stickers. So they can send her their picture or whatever they'd like to make and stick it right on the board. And then they can wood burn around it, or sometimes they'll use that to router around to kind of make that design or whatever picture that they were looking for. And some students just use it straight as a sticker too. They have the Patriot symbol on their cube set and then varnish right over that. So some of them just keep it right as a sticker.
Any help from Mill River Lumber?
Not yet. I reached out to them last year, and they weren't able to donate last year. So once I found the national park, they were able to give me so much that I was like, okay, this feels really good.
Yeah.
I could certainly reach out to them again at some point.
Ed,
We just had a fire.
if you
so-
had to share what you
They were
think
down for quite a
is
while.
maybe across the board, in general, an area where students struggle and you're trying to support them in woodshop, could you identify that for us? Like, what's the challenge? What's the thing you're trying to work on?
Oh, okay. Let's see. Mostly like really precise measuring. Like there's some students who are starting a box project now, and so like making sure that every length and width is exactly right on to get them to where they need to be. So a lot of like using tape measures and a lot of practice using rulers, and just using getting those measurements exactly right so that when you make your box, everything lines together and fits well. So a lot of measuring skills are the biggest things that we're working on.
Which is interesting, because in math class, if you're a little off, you get a red mark, fine. But if you're in woodshop and you're a little off, your project doesn't look good. That's I think an interesting thing that students are maybe finding out. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Unless it's extremely off, then it's art.
There you go. That's why you changed to the art credit, not the elective credit.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll be curious, Ed, to hear if we talk to you again in the future, if you've been able to figure that out, like a good strategy to support kids there. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, well, I'll keep working on it.
Josh.
Yeah, so I just have one question, and maybe you don't know it exactly, but does it seem like most of the kids in the class like have no experience, some experience, a lot of experience? Like, does it? I just want to know what kids are experiencing now.
Oh yeah, good question. So I feel like a lot of the kids with a lot of experience, they kind of like rush through. They're kind of like, oh, I got this, and so they kind of rush through, and then at the end they're like, oh wait, this doesn't actually work. And the students with very little experience, they're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, and so they take their time and really look and be detailed about what they're doing, and then their project comes out much better. So it's kind of that mixed bag. But yeah, so there's definitely, I'd say the better pieces are coming from the students that have less experience right now, just because they're able to just slow down and really take in and learn what they're doing.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ed. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
tremendous,
Can't wait to
thanks.
see this stuff.
Yeah, see.
Is Mary here from middle school?
Absolutely.
All right, you're on, Mary.
All right, I don't know if I can top Ed's performance. That was pretty nice. Having been through our wood shop as a student, I'm super excited to see that back. And Ed, I know what asking for donations is like, so kudos to you on a job well done. And I definitely hear our middle school kids talking about liking wood shop, so that's an awesome thing to have back finally. To the rest of you at the board, thank you first of all for the opportunity to present on behalf of the middle school. I know you were looking for some data points, and I do have some of those, as well as some anecdotal information. We've had a great start to the new year. We've seen and heard from family feedback that the transition for our 7th graders was really smooth this year. Families have been super appreciative and have expressed that at the multiple opportunities that students and families had to come to Mill River before day 1 of school. We had our traditional 6th grade visit day at the end of May, and that same week we also offered a family night where parents could come or guardians could come and just kind of meet and greet some of the teachers, take a tour of the building, kind of calm some of the nerves of that big transition from little school to big school, calm some of those nerves of those parents who were former students at Mill River and how that transition might have been a little traumatic for them. And so they were super appreciative of that. And we also had then our student orientation day the week before school started. So that went really smoothly, all 3 of those events. So a great start to the year. Some really great 7th grade students that have come in and joined us, super engaged, just a good group of kids, a little bit larger class than the previous year. So all around good there. Our advisory program, a little bit more focused this year on student engagement. Our advisories are kind of really working on our conversation circles. So when you walk down through during advisory, you'll see most classrooms kind of in a circle, having a conversation, maybe playing a game, doing some teamwork, but just really trying to build some community. You know, and I always fight for advisory time as much as possible, whenever possible. It's a really important part of our day. I'm still fighting to get it back at the beginning of the day, but we'll work on that fight a little bit later. But it's a huge piece to just the growth of our middle schoolers and that feeling of safety and kind of being a part of a group and kind of having a home. So we're doing a lot with those conversation circles, and just an example of that, I did one right before parent-teacher conferences and said, you know, if you could tell Ms. Golden one thing that you'd be proud to share with your parents or your family at conferences, what would that be? And I got some really great answers that I never thought I would get. So just simple things like that where everybody has a voice going around the circle. We established some norms, if you will. We called them advisory agreements at the beginning, and the kids really bought into it. So right now, I'm just excited. I struggled a little bit last year with my own advisory, just with the makeup of students. And this year, it's just really been nice to see in the middle school how that community piece is really just coming together and gelling. So we do a lot of school-based, school-wide activities as well. In fact, Ed and Lisa, our speech and language pathologists, have done a lot of organizing some school-wide events, like our most recent cornhole tournament with the championship coming up next week, I believe, our door decorating and Halloween stuff. So there's just a lot of good activities like that taking place through our advisory program. Middle school meets bi-weekly during G Block, and we started this year with what we're calling our student support meetings. Kind of with a focus on streamlining our EST referral process, where before teachers would kind of just say to themselves, oh my gosh, the student really seems to be struggling in my class, I'm going to refer them to EST. When that happens, that list can be super long. So we've done kind of a good job, I feel, of meeting together on those weeks, every other week, kind of deciding what have we done already as Tier 1 interventions in our classrooms. Are there students who have come off IEPs that we really need to provide some services for? We kind of fast-track them to the EST process. So numbers-wise, right now, we've so far recommended 24 students for discussion in our meetings. 8 of those we're currently tracking some data on, which looks like, you know, have we called these students back for flex? Have we looked at their attendance record? Have we, you know, looked at their testing scores? All those sorts of things to decide then what are we doing and is it working in our classrooms? Out of those 8, we've made 4 referrals for EST in kind of a formal process, and 2 of those 4 were actually students coming off from an IEP. So we kind of feel like doing this is streamlining that process, but it's also still providing wraparound services for all of our middle schoolers, which is pretty important. Another piece we have is what we're calling, or not what we're calling, what is, PBIS, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support. We call those kudos cards in our part of the world. And what those are cards that are given out by staff members to students who we find being responsible, being respectful, and being kind. So it could be a whole lot of things. We could just see a kid who's in our class doing what they should be every single day. You know, their binders out, they're ready to go at the start of class, they're participating, they're engaged, not a behavior issue. We might just give them a kudos card because they're doing what we are asking them to do. We might have a kid who stays after class to put up all your chairs for you without being asked. simple little things like that, that we're just recognizing the good stuff that our kids are doing. So for some numbers of that, first month of the school year, 87 students received kudos cards, and in October we jumped that number up to 127. So we're seeing good stuff happening in the middle school. So that's kind of a nice thing. There are prizes for those. Students have a few choices of some raffles that they can put those cards in for some prizes that might be a Mill River bumper sticker, or sunglasses, or a water bottle, or time in the gym during flex if their work's all caught up, or ice cream, a lot of different things. So that's going really well, and I think it will continue to improve and those numbers go up. A couple of faculty members shared we are seeing increased class sizes. We do have a lot of classes that are 20 students, 21, 22, 23 students, which seems a little bit big for us, but it's a good problem to have. And with that, though, it's kind of a little bit of the negative is we need the support in those classes, and we are still, as everyone knows, struggling with getting the paras hired and the support that we need for that. And a lot of it really comes down to we really need the help with the mental health concerns that we have, and we know that, but we're not exactly trained in it. So we're super pleased to welcome our new counselor, whose primary focus is going to be middle school. And hopefully she can work with some of our students in that realm, which we're excited to see. And then the last piece I just had is our after-school program. That got off to a great start. Only offering homework club at the moment. That's happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, with a couple of staff members each day. We have 5 right now that are covering the different days on a different schedule. That's offered 2:45 to 4 those 4 days. And in September, we had 82 students attend. A lot of that is our athletes staying after waiting for a practice, and they come into homework club. And then some are just students whose families have signed them up because they feel that that would be a good thing for them to do. So 82 students in September and 62 in October. And students receive a snack each of those days, and then also some personalized support by those staff members to get their classwork done. Jen Severance and Teresa, our after-school coordinator, are meeting tomorrow to kind of finalize the details of expanding that program from more than just homework club. And right now, the top 4 desires by students after answering a survey about it were arts and crafts, kind of painting, drawing being a focus there, chess, Dungeons and Dragons, and then a cooking, baking session. So lots of folks have offered their expertise in those areas, and that will be finalized within the next few weeks so we can offer those in the upcoming months to our students for a couple hours after school. And I think that's all I have for you, unless you have some questions.
Go ahead.
I have more of a generalized question. I'm glad the transition between 6th and 7th is going so well. I think in past years, and you can correct me if we did it this year, before they went to 7th grade, we had like a get-together of all the 6th graders before they actually transferred. Did that occur this year too?
That was the
This-
camp.
Yeah, this past year, no, but there are plans to do something similar to that coming this summer.
Ah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I believe Paula Reynolds actually reached out to Kim Moore and myself to see if there would be a couple folks from the middle school that would join the adults that already are part of that so that they could see some new faces that will become familiar faces when they enter 7th grade. So it sounds like a fun time, I think.
And that's all paid for with the Stronger Connections grant, which was a sub-grant we applied for last year that's good for 3 years.
And that's what's funding an additional mental health support person in this building. So those 2 things were the Stronger Connections grant, that extra mental health support person and this transition plan for our 6th graders. Oh, by the way, we got that safety grant too that we were talking about in the spring when we were talking about the Stronger Connections, about $100,000. We will be talking in budget season because we need to locally have $25,000 to be able to match to use that funding. But, a lot of good work that folks are doing to try and access funding without just raising taxpayer dollars. We know there's a need, like Mary was saying. We all know our students are struggling a little more than they ever have. And we're trying to find the smart ways to get those things to put them in place to support them. Good question, Nick.
Hi, Mary, it's Lenny.
Hi, Mr. Doucette.
How's the new social studies curriculum working?
So honestly, I haven't met with my elementary colleagues as of yet. I am not using it a whole lot myself yet, but I have some good resources that I think will come from it. I will tell you that I'm in a different place than when I presented to you last year, when I said, oh my goodness, these kids are coming in with just lacking basic skills.
Right.
Huge shift in that this year. I'm like a little bit giddy, in fact. I think Kaylin and folks in our hallway have seen me maybe even skipping on some days down the hall.
Really? I want to see that.
Well, okay, maybe I went a little too far on that one. I really am super thrilled with what seems to be just a great group of students who are engaged. They're bringing prior knowledge that I've not seen in a little while. I mentioned something today about it's kind of a trivia question for our warm-up question, and the kids nailed it. They didn't look it up online. They knew it right off the top of their head. I asked 2 more follow-up questions. They nailed those. I'm a little bit in awe, but it's a great problem to have. So I think, I don't know if it was a shift in just the composition of students, because there hasn't been a shift in the curriculum that happened in that year yet. It's just implemented this year. So I don't know the reason, but I'm taking it every day.
Well, and I'm always glad to know that students are keeping you on your toes.
But
it's a tough task.
But that's a good question, Len, and I think that's a question that we need to keep revisiting. And if we, down the road, next year, year after, what we're hearing from Mary is going to give us an idea of are those resources supporting that need or not.
Yeah, and I think, having been a social studies teacher here for years and never having any kind of a curriculum building up.
Yeah.
And
you had your textbook, but who knows what they were doing in elementary.
Well, and they just can't, you could tell, I'm sorry, which school they came from.
Yep.
And it would be so nice to have a curriculum so that every kid that comes into 7th grade, excuse me, comes in on the same base to work with. And that helps your job, Mary.
Absolutely. My first indication was actually a game that we just played in our advisory, and I'm already forgetting the name of it. But it's a geography, basically looking at a video of a place. You're just in the middle of nowhere, figure out where this place is. And I was amazed. The kids were able to use all of the clues in the picture. They were like, well, wait, that sign looks like it's written in Arabic. Well, wait, those license plates are definitely European. I was just speechless. Just the basic knowledge that they were able to come in with, where last year I felt like if you mentioned some of those countries, they might not have heard of them before. Yeah. It feels a lot better, but you're going to have to wait for the social studies presentation for more details on that.
Thanks.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mary.
I'll ask
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
One question, if you don't mind, Mary. I'll ask same thing I asked Ed. We're hearing about some good things happening. What do you think is the biggest struggle with this group of students, or even just in social studies with that group? What do you think's the challenge?
A little bit is still our typical transition to 7th grade of organization.
Okay.
If that's our worst issue, we're fine. I'm looking at kids. I have a few kids in particular that I say, you are my fabulous musicians, and they look at me strangely, and I said, you bring me an accordion file every day. Like their papers go into some black hole of a backpack or not a binder, but a backpack or a locker, and I get this folded up thing that's all crumpled. So organization is definitely tough. It's hard to go from one classroom, one teacher, to 8 classrooms, 8 different teachers, 8 different sets of expectations. So there's a lot for them to deal with. I think that's still a struggle that we work on. You know, we work on it in advisory, I work on it in Flex, we work on it in Flex. We've worked on it with a few specific kids who are staying after school for homework club. Hey, this would be a great time. Let's empty that binder, let's organize it. So I think that's probably, honestly, our biggest struggle. And like I said, if that's the worst, then we're doing okay. Social studies wise, I really haven't seen anything. We've only done geography, that's our first unit in 7th grade. We'll be moving on to our government unit in about 2 weeks. So I'll let you know then if that changes and that's like, oh my gosh, they don't even know where Montpelier is or what happens there. I mean, some of us still wonder that too.
Some of us don't know either, yeah.
But yeah, I would say honestly, it's really organization, and then just supporting our middle school students as a whole student and those mental health pieces. You know, how to really. I think one of our big things overall in the middle school is figuring out how do we deal with our problems. And that's a tough thing for 12, 13, 14-year-olds to figure out. If I'm fighting with my best friend today, how do I deal with that? So a lot of that social emotional stuff is still a struggle, and we're working on it as a team to hopefully make it a little easier. You know, some of those conversations are really good. We're able to have, you know, pull kids out, have a restorative conversation, or even just a quick conversation in the hallway about, well, how do you think that made them feel? Why did we make that decision? And it goes a long way with students. It really does. But I think a lot of us are afraid to have those conversations. A lot of folks don't necessarily feel trained, but guess what? We're being trained as we speak. So I think those things are going to start to feel a little bit more natural and come a little bit easier to everyone involved. So I think we're on the right path with that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Mary.
All right, thank you. Have
Thanks,
a good
Mary.
night.
Thank you. And Ed,
Take care.
Ed and Mary, feel free. You
Yes.
can log off. You can absolutely hang out with us all night long, but you can log off. I know you have a lot to do too.
All right, so on to our student rep, Bronson Patch. So give us a little, like, background, and then
tell
give
us
us
about
some
yourself
updates.
a little bit first, Bronson, if you don't mind.
Okay. Hello, I'm Bronson Patch. I'm a junior here at Mill River. I've been in the district since preschool. I went to Clarendon all those years, and then I've been here. I do almost everything Mill River has to offer. I'm in almost every club I can think of. I do ultimate frisbee in the spring. I would do jazz lab, jazz band. I sing with Miss Simonetti. I'm part of National Art Honor Society with JT. And we just had a field trip, which was great. I just got elected treasurer for student council, and I'm also treasurer of Interact Club, which is the community service organization connected to the Rotary. And I'm props master for the Stage 40 show. So do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Do you want to give us a short list of what you don't do? Would that be easier?
Fall and winter sports is about it.
Do you have anything to report to us?
Yes, okay. So in preparation of tonight's meeting, I met with a group of 7th graders, about 5 or 6 who volunteered to come down, which makes about 10% of the class. And they had a few positive points and a few points that they thought could be improved upon. They really liked it when the electives came down to middle school, which I remember was part of my favorite part. So when we had like woodshop they really liked, and art, and Stage 40, drama 7 is one of the favorite classes in middle school. That's a huge point they loved. They also really thought it helped the transition when their middle school teachers came down to elementary school when they were still 6th graders. Like, I think every one of them said Mrs. Moore come into their room when they were in 6th grade really helped them. They noticed, which every student here knows, that at lunch, it gets clogged up. We only have half an hour for lunch every day, and on Taco Tuesday, it can take you 15, 17, 18 minutes just to sit down with your food, which is bad. So they were thinking, and Ms. Thompson and I agree, that it'd be cool if we could just look at like getting a second point of sale system, like a second cash register, and just have the same lunch lady watch it. And then it's just finding out how we can pay for that, because it's a big like lump sum, and seeing if that's something we'd like to do. Next, they said the room numbering system is confusing, which is totally. I agree.
It's not the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. And Miss Thompson told me about a repair guy came in and it said go to room 400 something, and so he looked for the 4th floor, which of course we do not have. So looking into some way to either make it more obvious, like saying this is where the 400s are, this is where everything is, or finding a renumbering system they thought would be very helpful.
I wonder if they put the walls up at different times, because there used to be no walls around here. So
Yes,
I wonder
they did.
So,
Don't be pointing at me.
Well, you and I would remember.
but that's an interesting question. Yeah, why are the room numbers in
Yeah.
such an interesting order?
Yeah.
The add-ons.
The 400 specifically, they're
Yeah.
all the weird rooms.
I just like being validated for getting lost in this building for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Leland knows. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going.
I still carry that sometimes.
Yeah, okay, I feel validated.
Well, and I think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think it would be a great thing to look at this building and renumber, because in terms of, how do I want to say this? Health and safety,
Yeah.
to know
Well,
where,
Here's my only wonder with that, and I'll talk to Tim, is everybody has our maps. So if you talk about health and safety and you know, we do have E911 now.
Yeah.
So actually
Yeah.
that phone right behind you, Len, if you called 911 on that phone,
that would be here.
they'd know we're here.
Yeah.
They'd know this
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
And they'd pull the map up and they'd see that it's 3:15, so
Yeah.
they'd come in knowing, you know, so they're
I understand.
there's a lot of coordination potentially involved.
Yeah.
Not that it's something that wouldn't be worth looking at, but it might be harder to do than, you know, just
I'll
slapping your
politely
numbers up.
side
Yeah.
with Andrea on this one. I know the building like the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
The numbering system's fine.
Yeah, okay.
No, it's not. But I'm thinking too that if we can maybe
Yeah.
renumber a couple, it's a
There might be
really
some-
good senior legacy next year
Yeah,
for your class.
yeah. And like I said, I'll talk to Tim, we can look at it and we can see what would be involved in that. Yeah. And Bronson, I'm sorry, I know you have more. that
Yeah.
you want to share.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
All right, so the last thing they said was that Flex, which we have twice a week for 50 minutes, they're 7th graders, they don't have much to do, they're not in many clubs, but they really like when Mr. Allen has open gym or when they can go down to art and stuff like that. They thought that was a great positive and could possibly be expanded upon. So then next, we'll talk about the clubs, which I thought would be very good for tonight because they've been very active so far. First, Interact Club. That's the club I'm most involved with. Like I said, I'm treasurer. We brought apple crisp around to everybody during lunch one day, and we got a few new inductees. We're also planning on hosting a blood drive in May in the gym, or at the end of the year, hopefully. And then this Veterans Day, we're having a dinner. I encourage you all to come. Ooh, $15 a person.
Can you scan that and share it with Superintendent
If you
Hill
get
to
it,
share
if you
with
get it
us?
to me, I can get it to the board. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Where is it?
The Little Rotary Building, the Little Red Schoolhouse in Wallingford. November 11th, 5 to 7.
It's at your house, didn't you know?
And we're making homemade pasta. Yeah. Oh, and before that, we went around and gathered donations. We made $2,300 from donations from local businesses, which is great.
Wow.
It's one of the highest grossing years for Interact Club that we've had. So next, Tri-Am, which is our music club. It's, I believe, the biggest club in the school. They're having a movie night soon, which is great. They were very active at the concert. They sold just a little fundraiser thing. They had little knickknacks. NAHS, the National Art Honor Society of our chapter. We had a field trip recently, which had 60 kids go on it. It was very well attended. And kids from all sorts of places from the school. We went up to Middlebury to the Lemon Fair Sculpture Garden, and it was very helpful and very artistic, and it really brought us together. And they're also doing a teacher playing card fundraiser very soon, where we'll have all the different teachers, and there'll be like a trading card set. Next, yeah,
That's fun.
That's gonna be fun.
yeah. And then
You get legacy ones?
No.
Student council has also met. We've elected our officers. Model UN has met 1 or 2 times, and in January we'll be going down to Yale to participate in one of the biggest Model UNs in the country. Student leadership team that I'm not a part of, they have met a couple times, and they are hoping to throw a dance later in the year. And then we got the Stage 40 show, which is coming up in 2 weeks-ish. And Molly is the Miser. It's going very well. Encourage you all to attend that as well. And then lastly, I'll meet with the 8th grade tomorrow during Flex, hopefully, to discuss any points they have for improvement, any positive points.
Awesome.
Any
Thank you,
questions?
Bronson.
Holy cow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bronson.
I just have to say, I remember Bronson being this big playing baseball. All right, so save your 8th grade till next, we'll have you come next meeting.
Yeah, and I might have finished the 9th grade by then too.
Okay, perfect.
We'll talk.
And you're gonna give Brian the,
Flyer.
Yep, and we'll get that out.
Thank you.
Actually, if you just have a copy that's extra, if you leave that with me, I'll scan it. Don't worry about that.
Can we put it on, like, Front Porch Forum and stuff? Have you?
That has already been done, as well as
Okay.
the MRU Facebook page.
All right, perfect.
And I believe the local newspapers.
Okay. All right, thank you. You can hang out if you want, or you can leave if you have homework. All right, so Brian, I believe you're next with the in-district.
We've been talking class size, tuition, now in district, and absolutely let me know if there's more information you want me to bring the board. I will keep bringing back what you ask for. This one's interesting, and this is one that I said, gosh, we had never really looked at it much. This was a program where we've allowed our elementary school students to transfer from school to school. We've got some paperwork and some requirements for that, so it's not, just willy-nilly moving among schools, but we have a great application process where a family, a student might say, hey, you know what, I'm looking for something a little different, and I think that this school could offer it to me. So the wonder, I think, was, obviously there are some benefits, but are there some drawbacks? So let's look at some numbers so that we can have a little more in-depth conversation about what the drawbacks might be versus the benefits. I think specifically where we're thinking about Tinmouth, gosh, is the Tinmouth enrollment a lot higher than it would be if we didn't have this program? And what the implications of that might be. So the numbers I'm going to share with you, these are interesting because these go back 5 years, because we do have some in-district transfer students who are in 6th grade that transferred 5 years ago, and they've spent the majority of their elementary time at that transfer school. So these numbers, if you add up everybody over, thank you, Bronson. If you add up everybody over the last 5 years, that's where this number comes from, okay? Does that make sense? So this is not just last year, here's how many students access program. This is over the last 5 years, how many students access this program. Clarendon, 15. Wallingford, 3.
wait, do you mean 15?
15 in.
Okay, okay.
Wallingford, 3. Shrewsbury, 7. Tinmouth, 7.
Wow.
Okay. Now this is interesting because if you look at Clarendon, 3 of those are Tinmouth and 4 of those are Shrewsbury. So you've got a fair number of the students who are accessing Clarendon coming from smaller schools to go to Clarendon. Clarendon is our larger school, larger than Wallingford, by maybe about 20, 30 students. So interesting to see that trend of students moving from smaller to larger. Our Wallingford students that are at Wallingford are from 3 separate schools. So you've got somebody from each of the other elementaries choosing to go to Wallingford. Shrewsbury, Tinmouth, and Clarendon all have somebody going to Wallingford. The only schools that don't have each other's students, Shrewsbury and Tinmouth. So Clarendon's got somebody from everybody, Wallingford's got somebody from everybody, but Shrewsbury has no Tinmouth kids, Tinmouth has no Shrewsbury kids. And I thought that was interesting, that Shrewsbury has some maybe Wallingford and Clarendon kids, and Tinmouth has some Wallingford and Clarendon kids, but nobody is going from small school to small school. So that, I think, was an interesting trend. Tinmouth only has about a difference of 4 students. So with students coming and with students going, Tinmouth's enrollment is not skewed a lot by this program, which is interesting. If they've got 7 students, well, they sent 3. So the net is 4. So really, we've only shifted Tinmouth enrollment by 4 students through this program, if that makes sense. Our, let's see, my last little note here. Yeah. So those are the numbers, and I think those were the most interesting trends. If I were to give my summary would be that the pros far outweigh the cons. I was having a hard time finding a negative. The places where we have students moving, they're moving to a lot of different schools from a lot of different schools. And they seem to be happy because they're staying. You know, we've got some kids who have spent 5 years accessing that in-district transfer. And we are not putting students where there's not space. I know Tinmouth, we've been talking a little bit about some of the challenges there. I think the challenge is a small room, not necessarily the enrollment. You know, if we were to take, in other words, 4 students out of Tinmouth, I don't think we'd solve the problem. So I don't think in-district transfer is really what we need to be looking at. I think it's that small classroom and how do we support better space being used up at Tinmouth, which is what we're looking at. So, questions, comments, thoughts?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, thank you, because this is something that I never really looked into the numbers or thought about, and I think it is interesting.
I obviously don't want to give you any more work, but
Yeah.
off the cuff,
Yeah.
these transfers aren't like 15 for Clarendon sticks out at me.
Yeah.
But it could cause, I haven't got to my question yet, but any of the numbers, if they're congested to a single grade,
Yeah.
could cause us to say, oh my gosh, we need another para, or we need another teacher. So
part of the program, because it's an application process, people have to submit their application by, I believe, March 15th. So we're looking at enrollment in a way that we're pretty sure we know where we are. So if we get an application and that's going to make a grade level too large, we say no. In the 2 years that I've been overseeing those, we haven't said no. But our procedure is written in a way that, you know, your point, wow, if that were in 1 grade, we'd have a problem. We would say no.
But on an overall scale, looking at the numbers and listening to what you said, the net is almost nothing.
Yeah, it's not enough that it makes us, I don't think, worry about staffing or anything, really.
And I also think it's important that people understand that there is an application process that's involved. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Which, you know, I don't know a lot of stuff. But
well, that's why we ask questions and we'll bring you stuff back.
Because I think that's important to let the communities know and the community members know that it's just not you want to go here, you go there, and it's
to
not.
that point, it's not like I pick my kid up tomorrow and say, guess what, we're moving schools.
And it's a year-long commitment. It's a year-long commitment.
Okay.
So we tell folks, if you're signing on for this, you are committing for the year. You may change your mind, but you're not changing your mind halfway through the year. And I think that's important.
Well, and I think the community needs to hear that.
Yeah. And I would say, too, that I have not seen folks move and change their mind.
Well, obviously, you
I'm
said most of
aware-
them, you said most of them go the whole elementary
Yeah.
school, so.
I'm aware that that's happened in the past. You know, I've heard of that happening. Actually, I think what I've heard of more is we were unhappy here, so we tried here. Actually, can we try somewhere else? And I think that's happened maybe once or twice, but I think that's more of the exception than most folks, I think, land somewhere and stay there. At least that seems to be my experience.
Thank
Other
you for doing
questions?
that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Other
appreciate it.
questions?
Look at that, no homework yet.
Yeah, no homework this time. So, you know, again, this might keep families in district. If we're providing these options, we're at least giving them something to potentially keep them in if they're looking at going elsewhere. So, I think a good thing.
All right, thank you,
Yep.
Brian. Timoth Space update?
Yep, that will be me too.
Okay.
So I spoke with Maureen, and actually great timing. She was meeting with the individual that she's been working with at the church up there in Tinmouth. She was meeting with them yesterday. So after she met with them, we talked to get the full update. They are looking at January 1. So
For the church?
Yeah, a couple of things that they have to get in place. I think the biggest thing is asbestos remediation. There are some tiles up, and we need to make sure that that's taken care of. So if we go all the way back to the summer, and I forget how much of this I shared with the full board, but going back to the summer, we had Visbit, our insurance company, a representative come down and see the space so that they could give us recommendations so that we knew that we were doing our due diligence and not entering into an unsafe space. So based on that list of recommendations that Visbit gave us, we've been working with the church to figure out, hey, how can we take care of these? Some of them are really simple, easy things for us to do. But I do think the last time we talked, I mentioned this idea that it really doesn't make sense for us to use taxpayer dollars to improve somebody else's space. So really, the landowner has some work to do to improve their space to make it rentable, if that makes sense. So what they're telling us is January 1, they're expecting to have that taken care of. We've got a lease already drafted. We had Visbit look at our lease to make sure that looked okay. That's a service they offer. So we're lining everything up to be able to start using that space in the new year, if that makes sense.
That's good news.
Yep.
Extremely good news.
Josh?
So just another anecdote of how disruptive it is I happen to be in not the room that's the worst room for the noise, of a room down from that, doing Four Winds.
Yep.
And it happened to be on the day that is like the main loud day, and it is even in down the hall, removed from that, buried the other room that's too small and too loud. I could see how it's very distracting, and it's very hard to do it. So now it's like, even hearing everybody talk about it and then actually trying to do lessons in that space, it is tricky. And so I can only imagine what it is even closer to that space. So I'm really glad that this is moving forward.
Yeah, Maureen's been working hard on trying to problem solve. Yeah.
I'm very relieved. Can I just say that? That it's moving with the church.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been, all along, my understanding is they've been absolutely willing to partner with us. We just have to, details like asbestos make things take a lot longer than you'd hope they'd take.
Yep.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Board member resignation.
And that was in materials, so you should have a
Yes.
copy of that, but that email did go to the full board.
That Sam Green has resigned from her position as the Shrewsbury seat. So, back to another.
I would make a motion that we accept her resignation. I think we need to do that first.
Yes, we do need to accept it.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any more discussion? we'll discuss more.
Discussion, the piece that I will add is I have a letter drafted that mirrors our letter that we sent the last time around to the Shrewsbury Select Board.
Yep.
So depending on where action goes with the board tonight, I can connect with Crystal Usher, our clerk, and then I can work with Crystal to make sure that the Select Board is informed tomorrow.
Perfect.
Which
We do have an interested party.
I think we have a little more time than tomorrow. No, I think it says once there's a vacancy, we notify them. So I think it's
Yep.
important that we do that tomorrow.
And then we have 30 days.
Yes, we have 30 days, and in the past, what we had done is we had outlined to the select board, here's our timeline. If you have feedback, please let us know by this date, because at this board meeting, we will be,
I don't know how often Shrewsbury meets
yeah, so that's kind of the hard part.
for their select.
And
But,
we-
I mean, they can pull a meeting. They need to. What?
So the tricky part is the 15th is gonna come fast.
Yep.
We have 30 days, the 15th is gonna come fast. Our next meeting wouldn't be until December 6th. So, if we wanted to, we could do a special meeting just for the purposes of appointing. If we wanted to give more
We
time,
could just
then-
do that meeting virtual, like we've
Yeah.
done in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah.
And then that way it's a quick.
You could, it can be a 10-minute virtual meeting that we warn as just a special meeting. But telling the select board tomorrow, hey, you've got 14 days, I think.
Yeah, no.
The calendar this time around is funky, because we haven't really been that rushed before. So, the fact that this is November 1st meeting, I think makes it a little trickier.
Their select board meetings are on the 1st and 3rd.
I was just
Shrewsbury,
gonna say,
okay.
You beat me to
tonight
it.
and the 15th,
Yeah.
and they meet at 6:30.
So,
do we, and I'm trying to think back.
yeah.
Did the Clarendon Select Board
Yes.
provide us with options? I don't think they did.
I think
But, hold on just one second. But we asked people who were interested to provide us with a letter of intent. Is that the way it worked?
So, Shrewsbury, yes. Clarendon worked a little differently, because I think Clarendon, and I'm thinking, I always forget, because George Ambrose
Yeah.
stepped down.
And
Was that
John,
when you came on,
yeah,
Andrea?
that's when Adrian
Okay.
came on.
I think there.
And I sent a letter, and then Mike
Well, it was between
Klopshin-
two people.
Yeah.
Yes,
But I
but
think.
then there was the special election.
I think there was a lot of tension between the school board and the Clarendon Select Board.
There was,
Yes,
yes.
there was.
Because
A lot.
Clarendon
But-
Select Board felt that we were not giving them much of an opportunity
Right.
to.
But my point is, the board made the decision between
Yeah.
two people.
And it is the board's decision.
And it was before the election, because then the election ran and all of that happened.
Well, and that's what we did with Nick.
Yeah.
So I ended up.
Oh, that's
sending-
right.
I ended
forgot.
up
BJ.
sending, I
That
ended up
was-
sending a note,
Yeah.
because I filled BJ's seat, and then
Yeah.
now I'm elected in from the town, so
Yeah.
I ended up sending a note to the board,
Yeah.
and then I sent a note to the town,
Yeah.
and there was another interested person. We went to the select board, we both gave a spiel,
Yep.
and then
The
the
select
select board
board
deliberated and
sent us-
said, we pick Nick. They ended up picking me, and they said, we'd like to see Nick. And then
So
I
that
think
came
we
from the
both,
select board?
we
Yeah.
both came to the next school board meeting,
Okay.
and the select board had already sent a recommendation saying, hey, we want Nick to sit on the seat,
Yeah.
but me and this other gentleman, his name eludes me at the moment,
Yeah.
both came to the next school board meeting. But since the town had said, hey, we also want to see Nick,
And I
The
think-
school board said,
It's
let's say-
always gone that the select board is notified. Then the select board corresponds with us about the time frame, and then we receive recommendation from the select board to who we would like to fill our seat with. And then we
They would like
decide who they would like, and then we decide
It
from
is
there.
the board's decision to
Right.
appoint.
But is
I
the
think
town-
it's an interesting thing where you say, this is a representative of a town, we're gonna elect somebody that the town doesn't put forward. And I think that's the tricky part where Clarendon felt like, we had a forum where we had people come and talk to the board, and that was public. And I think Clarendon felt like, you're running a process to select somebody.
So there was a lot more behind Clarendon's thing,
It
and
was-
I will not repeat on camera
Yeah.
what was actually going on.
But I think it was, it felt like a different process versus, let's just talk to the select board and let's ask them for their recommendation. And then it is our decision, but let's get that recommendation. And I think it's, and here's where I'll just give the board my advice, so I'll act as an advisor. When we're talking about a town representative, I think listening to the town is reasonable. I think that's.
Well, reality is, sorry, Brian, but
Yeah.
reality is,
It's like impaired.
November 1st is today,
Yep.
tomorrow. This person will be filling a seat
Yep.
until March.
Yep.
Sam's term was up in March.
Yep.
So no matter what, we
It's
are
a short-
listening to the town.
I think it's
Because
to
March,
fight.
we're gonna listen to him again.
Yes,
I
to
know
fight
the-
over 3 months of
Yes,
who's gonna be
and
on the
we're
board
not.
doesn't seem prudent.
And
Yeah.
it's,
Sorry, Cindy.
I know the interested party because they personally emailed me.
Yeah.
And they almost beat me in the election with a write-in.
Mhm.
So the town
Yeah.
likes this person. I
Yeah.
really like this person.
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
I mean,
So we'll
So
reach
we'll
out
just
to the
have to go
select
through the,
board.
yep.
Yeah, we'll
So-
reach out
so
to
to-
the select board, we'll follow the process
I was
we
just
did
gonna
the
say,
last
so to
few
go
times.
forward with
Yep, yep, yep.
process, if you're gonna send it in tomorrow,
I
30
just wanna
30
know-
days puts us at December 2nd. They have their meetings on the 15th, and the next one would be the 6th. So we're not gonna make the next one. They would have to do it on the 15th. Our next meeting is the 6th,
So my question
so
is.
we would have to have a special meeting.
Yeah. Are we comfortable just to give the select board time to meet and deliberate?
Yes.
Are we comfortable
Yeah,
calling a
we're-
quick
yeah.
virtual special meeting? Is that reasonable?
We're not pushing.
I don't,
Okay.
my recollection, and I am not an elephant, I am not known for my memory, but this is all laid out in statute, and I do believe
Yeah.
that it is a very democratic process, so it does involve input from the select board.
Statute says we make the decision, I'll get the language, but I
After
think
input.
Yeah.
in consultation.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly,
With
and
the
That's
that,
where the discussion
The
is,
most
what does that mean?
democratic
Yeah,
approach.
yeah.
Absolutely.
so,
But I think there was,
Yeah, it's all written out.
Well,
and this is cited on the.
and I'm going to say this,
Yeah, so it does say, the Unified Union School District Board, consultation with the select board,
Right.
shall appoint.
Yeah.
So it is our job to appoint.
Yes.
But define consultation. And that's, I think, where in the past Clarendon wanted to define consultation differently than what they saw happening, so,
well, because that was the first time that we came up against that issue.
yeah.
And it was very different
Yeah.
from what the state said and what was in the
Well, and-
Clarendon statutes.
Sure.
And so, and I guess
Some of
my
the-
only other point would be, we don't need to be in a hurry.
No, but we have so many days.
We do have to appoint within 30 days.
I
Yes,
understand
but
that.
we don't have to, in those 30 days, be in a hurry.
But my point is, it's not like it needs to be done tomorrow.
No,
No,
no, exactly.
So sometime after the 15th, we'll try and schedule a,
Special.
yeah, we'll
Depending
schedule a
what we'll
quick special
corres-
meeting.
Correspond with them and find out exactly when they would be addressing
Yeah.
it that way.
Josh?
Accepting the
Yeah.
resignation.
So my only comment with all this is like, we have a interested party, but
Yep.
probably because they're in the loop, they
Yep.
know, I think we just have to make sure
Yep.
that
It'll-
community post that Sam is
Yep.
not there
And-
anymore.
and
So
s-
that's a porch forum post or something like that.
Yeah. The letter, Josh, that I'm gonna have sent
Has to
to
go on
select
paper.
board is gonna outline that we will put it on Front Porch Forum, and then, you know, that way, they know what we're gonna do, and it's not gonna be, oh, we thought they were gonna do that, or, yeah, cause that's a great point. The community might not know yet, and we wanna make sure everybody does know.
Do we need to vote?
Yes, we
Yes,
do. I was waiting for
yes.
everybody to fizzle down, so.
I did want the board to know, depending on how the vote goes, we've got stuff prepped and ready to go first thing tomorrow. And then we'll negotiate on virtual meeting maybe during agenda building,
I
if we
think,
need it.
I think Cindy still had a question. When does the 30-day clock start?
Tomorrow.
When we notify the select board. So if we notify them tomorrow, it
Okay.
starts tomorrow.
So it goes by when we notify the
Yes.
select board. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, can I have a vote? All in favor of accepting the resignation of Sam Green from the board? Okay, thank you. Now we have committee-ish things we need to go through. So Sam was on the Community Engagement Committee, Negotiations Committee, and Finance Committee. Those are spots that need to be filled for us. So, and then I know community engagement, you guys can regroup after we get somebody to fill the seat. So let's go with the Finance Committee. Is anybody willing to volunteer for the next 3 months to be on an extra committee somewhere?
I would just like to say that we have not had quorum the last 3 times we've met, so we could really, we need someone who can attend the meetings. Our next meeting is November 16th, and we are in budget season.
What
Do you have
day
it in front of you,
What day
Nick?
or time do you meet?
We have been meeting Thursdays at 4, but Paul, if that doesn't work for you anymore, we can certainly change it.
I was gonna be virtual last time because I had people gone and I had to be there. And then things happened.
Things happen. Ain't that the
Imagine
truth?
that.
Is Thursday 4 o'clock still good for you?
I can do it.
Okay.
That-
Do you
just
want
like
to
that one
change
I
it?
couldn't.
Because we can do
No.
it later. Okay.
No.
So we're gonna leave it Thursdays at 4.
Okay, who else is on that? It is Liz.
Doug, Paul, Josh.
Do we need to add in, that's,
Well, the problem is with 4,
And you need
you need to have 3.
If you have 5, you get a little more buffer of maybe somebody
Five
else
is
will
still
show
3.
up.
That's
Yeah.
5
kind
is
of-
still 3.
I know, but you
Well,
have.
I was just saying.
No, I
three
know.
Out of 5 versus
So-
3 out of 4.
That's a great question. So I guess,
Fractions.
I guess,
The real problem with having 4 versus 5 is that if we have 2 people and it's 4, then that's, we can't even talk about things that are going to be in action.
Exactly.
If we have 5 people and there's still 2 of us at the meeting, we can still talk about stuff that will be actionable.
oh, good point. And if
So
we, and if we,
have 5.
and if we don't
Okay.
have quorum, thank you for that, Josh. And if we don't have quorum, we can at least bring any actionable items to the full board.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for that.
So do we have a volunteer who would like to add themselves to finance? I personally cannot, I am working at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I can't. do
Otherwise I
4.
would. Do we have an, I wish I could just call in, but,
So that's what I do. Like, I stay at work because I can't.
well, I'm running
Do
from
you
one
do
job to
them
another.
Virtually?
So I can't be in person at 4 p.m. on a Thursday, so I join virtually. Josh, I feel like Josh is sometimes here.
You're
You're on
muted
mute.
there, dude. Thank you.
So, sorry, I usually show up just to make sure like the projector and stuff goes on if somebody else is gonna be there. Sometimes I don't. Like today, I thought I was coming in. I am.
Stuff happens,
That's the
like Paul
theme.
said.
Yep.
If I wasn't running from one job to the next, I would totally do it.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm in
yeah.
transition for like
Right,
20
right,
minutes
right,
at
right,
that
right.
time.
Okay.
The reality is, if Paul can come to meetings and I can be, like, you could be a member in honor, like, you know, an honorary member that just, you know.
Do you get like a medal?
Do you,
or what?
yeah, do I get like a pin or a sticker?
We could make that happen.
So if,
Or at least a cook.
No, because then no.
and what Josh is getting at is.
I know, the number.
You know, we'd love to have somebody who could commit to meetings. But if we have nobody that can commit to meetings, adding somebody doesn't hurt us. So if there's somebody who's thinking, well, gosh, I might be able to make it sometimes, that's better than nobody.
Len,
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I can't do 4 o'clock.
Sure.
I will do community engagement.
Okay.
Now,
Good old reliable Len. Len will show up
I know, but
every
this
time.
sucks.
If you will. If you sign up for it, you'll show up every time.
my question is, am I an official member?
That's
Do you
what
get
we're
a
asking
sticker?
for.
Yeah. I don't know, ask Josh.
You gotta talk to the woodworking folks.
Yeah, no, it's Karen McCalla has the sticker maker.
I'm willing to do it, but it needs, and it's not like I'm looking for power here or anything, but it's just, does the finance committee have 5 members
Yes.
or 4 and Lenny?
5. 5 is what we're talking about.
You'll be a part of the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's through budget season.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. And you're gonna have
Reorg.
an election and a reorg
In
come.
March. Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
right after town meeting.
And we're
so-
gonna have a new person here to
Yes.
fill in some of
Right.
these blanks,
So
Yeah.
that's true too.
Let's
That
hope
new
so.
person we can throw right in.
we think.
We
So
think
it's,
anyway.
it's really, hey, this would be helpful through budget season. But being an official member would be the helpful part.
Well, yeah, okay.
Are you still good? Or
No,
you
I'm not good, but here I am.
Well, somebody's got to make a motion and second it if we're going to do that.
Well, I make a motion for Len to entertain and be a part of the finance committee.
I got a second from Doug.
To entertain.
We have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Do we have to do a discussion? At least.
Do we have any more discussion?
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay. All in favor? I always forget Josh.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Next one is community engagement, and I will
Number
add
16.
that to mine. I will be a part of community engagement.
Yes.
So, can somebody make a motion for me
I'll
to?
make that motion that,
Second.
Oh,
Any discussion?
What was the motion?
the motion
gonna
was
be
that Andrew is gonna be
community
joining community engagement.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
Okay. All in favor? Actually, I don't know what I'm doing. So the next, the other committee was
Negotiations.
negotiations.
That's
We're going into
Probably
teacher negotiations.
going to be even a bigger lift than finance.
It,
That's
it is a bigger lift than finance.
Who is on negotiations?
What time of day do they meet?
Matt,
It's
Len,
Matt.
Cindy, Josh.
So I'm not volunteering to serve on
No,
that committee.
you're already on it.
There.
They meet, when do you guys meet?
We are waiting for the association negotiating team to get back to us.
Can we postpone that until we,
Yep. We had told them early November, and they had said, yeah, that probably works, so.
Historically, what time of day?
That tends to be real quick after the day ends.
Yeah, usually like 3:30, 4 o'clock, because the teachers have to be
Yeah.
there for it, so.
I would just suggest we go
We
with
wait.
what we have. and
Yes.
see
I was
if
gonna
it-
suggest Bruce, but, you know.
Yeah.
I was going like this.
I know.
Okay.
Why
don't we hold off on that until there's an actual meeting
And actually-
officially?
Think alike, Matt.
In negotiations, I wasn't thinking about this. While it is a heavier lift, we start to move into the territory of those aren't public meetings. So we can negotiate, we can be negotiating with the board, and there's no such thing as a quorum when you're we can be negotiating with the association, and you're no longer talking about a quorum because you're not talking about a public meeting. Matt?
Aren't they public meetings, but then we go into executive session? So
But
we do have to have a quorum to bring into executive session, right?
We can still engage with the association if we need to.
Oh, okay, all
We
right,
can
all
do
right,
it
okay.
informally.
All right, that's
if
fine.
makes
Okay,
sense.
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
And
Right.
since you're gonna be doing all of that,
Yeah.
I think we're fine.
Leave it the way it is for right now.
I'm dragging you to them, though.
If there's nobody jumping to do it, that's fine. If somebody wants to join later after we think about it, it wouldn't be bad to add
That's what I'm
somebody.
thinking.
Wouldn't be bad.
You're all welcome.
Yep.
All right, let's, go with what we've got.
Yeah.
We have a
Finance-
motion to, I don't know, do we need one?
No.
No,
No
all right,
motion.
good,
Finance being able to have a public meeting, I think, is more important, so.
okay. All right. Now on to committees. Personnel.
Oh, wait, that's me. Okay, we met tonight, and so I would make a motion to approve a contract for Timothy Howard as a support staff custodian 1.0 FTE.
I'll make that.
Oh, second.
Second, right there.
Oh, all right.
Discussion.
We are glad to be filling this position.
Yep. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Next, I'll make a motion to approve a contract for Casey Burnham Cooper as a special ed paraeducator 1.0 full-time equivalency.
I'll second it.
That's seconded by Cindy. Discussion.
Glad to be filling this position.
Just Wallingford, right?
Yes, that is Wallingford. Yep.
All in favor?
If you
Thank
need
you.
roll call, Rebecca, just let us know. You're good, okay.
Next, I'd make a motion to approve a contract for Katie Capobianco as an occupational therapist, 1.0 full-time equivalency, and I would make that a motion.
Second?
Second by Paul. Discussion.
Thrilled to be filling an OT position. That's a very hard one to fill, statewide.
All those in favor? Thank you.
Cindy.
Next is winter coaches positions, middle and high school, and there's a lot of them, but they're mostly all returning.
You just want to
Excuse me.
run down the names?
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the athletic winter coaches, middle and high school, as presented by Kim Maneri, our athletic director.
I'll second that.
Discussion. All those in favor? Okay. That was easy. And we have a couple of resignations. And just so folks know, I want to make it clear, I have reached out to both of these folks to ask them if they're interested in an exit interview. I've heard back from them, but neither one has said specifically that they would like an exit interview at such a date. And basically what I've said to them, and those of you who've been here for a while, is that I would meet with them and another board member to hear what they have to say. The exit interviews are not really interviews. It's an opportunity for them to let us know why they may be leaving. So it's not us saying, well, what about, it's not that at all.
Just time to listen.
Yeah, it's just to
Which
let
is
us
important.
know what's going on. So I've shared that with both of these folks, just so people know. So the first is a resignation by Jamie Giro as a paraprofessional, and I would make a motion that we accept her resignation. You got that?
Nick, you have to say I said.
Nick.
Oh, I'll second that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
What school is the?
That's Mill River.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Thank you. Next one is a resignation from Ethan Studley. And I would make a motion that we accept his resignation as
He's a para.
professional, sorry. Thank you. I would make that a motion. Cindy will second that. Thank you. Discussion.
Same question.
Wallingford, I'm pretty sure.
Anything else? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. And as I said, I reached out to both of them, and I may be asking board members to participate in those exit interviews if they so choose. I've told them they can pick the board member that they would like to be present if they want.
Oh, just Ethan was Clarendon. Just.
Oh, was he?
I
Okay.
thought he
used
was.
to be
I'm like, maybe he
Clarendon.
got moved in the beginning of the year.
Okay.
He was Clarendon because I know he
Okay.
worked in foundations,
Okay.
but
Well, but I
didn't know if he got
was
moved to
Wallingford this year, because he definitely was foundations in the past.
Yeah, I just got clarification though. He is with Clarendon.
Okay, so our next Personnel Committee meeting will be in December.
December 6th
There you go.
at 6:30 or 6?
Yeah, I think we can move it to 6:30. And just to update folks,
Bruce.
we went over the superintendent evaluation tonight tool, not the evaluation in and of itself. And with Brian's feedback, it now falls on me to update the evaluation tool, and then we'll bring that'll be available on December 6th, and we'll look at that.
And if you don't mind me chiming in, I'll say what I said during personnel. That whole process, I appreciate Liz, Bruce, Len, you working on that, because that, I feel like, has been an incredibly supportive way to think about setting goals for myself and doing that work. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, and you know, I will say it's been important for us. It's a much different perspective than it was in the past. And it's much more give and take. And I think,
Well, and it helps me know what I need to work on.
well, and it helps
helps
us
us
to
so
know
much more.
what to evaluate you on. I mean, it's kind of crazy when we're evaluating on things that you don't do. And I think that's also reflected in
Does
the
seem a little
board
crazy,
goals
Yeah.
that we've set, that we've sort of changed them. Hey, I'll be quiet. What are you laughing at?
All right, so the next, Bruce, personnel at 6:30
Yes.
on the 6th.
Talking to me?
No, I'm talking to Bruce.
She's just making sure Bruce knows what time the meeting is. Yeah.
Okay, so the next is policy, and we haven't had a meeting since the last meeting, because our next meeting is on the 14th.
And we had a whole bunch of warnings to put in the Herald.
Yep.
I'll remind the board that the timing on that is really funky, so that now that if we go to try and do that, it used to be we could get them on a Thursday in for the weekend and we'd get to the next board meeting. Now we have to get them in on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. So when policy meets on a Tuesday and board is on a Wednesday, we just don't have the timeline to get it to the next meeting 2 weeks later. So we do a little bit of a jump of a meeting. So we'll have a bunch of those that will have had their 10 days in the
For on the
Herald, but not
15th.
till, not till November 15th.
Yep. So the next meeting for policy is on the 14th at 5:30. Community engagement, or buildings and grounds, sorry.
Buildings and grounds has not met. That was by design. We just haven't hit our next meeting yet, since the last time the board had a meeting. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, November 14th at 4:30.
Community engagement.
Similarly, we have not had another meeting since our last one. And since we have all members of community engagement, when is our next meeting?
The 15th at 6. I thought that's what we had already.
Yeah, so
It
we,
is, but we
yes.
had some discussion as to whether or not we're keeping it or changing it.
And I think Liz was saying that the discussion was had, and I just spaced and didn't remember
Yeah, and I'm
the
sorry, I
discussion.
wrote
Yeah.
I wrote an email
Totally
response
fine.
yesterday, and then I didn't send it, so I sent it when, well, personnel was still underway, but we, at the time, knew that there was a public forum for finance that conflicted, and we decided that that wasn't going to prevent the committee from doing its work. So we decided to go ahead with it.
And that's my fault.
But we-
I forgot or didn't hear the part about we'll have both at the same time. And I saw on the calendar a day or 2 or 3 ago, oh no, there's a conflict. So I emailed the community engagement, just so the rest of the board knows how that conversation
Yeah.
started. I emailed community engagement folks to say, hey, there's a conflict, what should we do? So if folks are comfortable with, we have our budget forum and community engagement wants to meet at the same time, I'm okay with that, I am.
It fits my schedule, so.
Yeah, and my only thing was I can't be in community engagement because I'll be at the public forum, but it's whatever you folks want. I don't have an opinion, I can't be there, so.
15th still work for you?
The 15th is the best for me just because I'm already planning on being here.
Good for you.
It's just.
Right.
Right
Who
before
would
the-
rather be
Crowded
at the
that
public
week.
forum, though? That's,
I don't mind being at the public forum.
okay, so I
So-
think,
So we had also discussed, because you weren't in that meeting.
No.
We just leapfrog a meeting.
That's the other option, you could just wait to do community engagement till the 6th.
yeah,
But personnel's meeting on the 6th.
Personnel's meeting at the
Yeah.
6th.
so, okay. I think that public forum is priority, a little bit. Not that community engagement isn't priority, but I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
as much
But-
as
Well,
we
it is
are
community
working
engagement.
to try to communicate with the
Yeah.
community, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really thinking that that should be. But I don't know, I'm new.
I will loop you in.
Okay.
TBD, next meeting TBD.
Negotiations, we kind of talked about.
Yeah, negotiations haven't had a meeting, so.
Holding pattern a little bit there.
All right, finance.
All right, good evening, everyone. We have the following payroll for approval tonight in the amount of $607,961.41. And for pay orders from the general, from the general fund, we have a pay order in the amount of $102,937.77. From officials, we have a pay order in the amount of $1,620. From the general fund, we have a pay order in the amount of $18,669.59. From our after-school program, we have a pay order in the amount of $579.69. And from our lunch program, we have a pay order in the amount of $63,135.33. For a grand total of $186,942.38. From our student activity accounts from Mill River, we have a pay order in the amount of $840. And from Wallingford Elementary School, we have a pay order in the amount of $1,419 for a grand total from student activity accounts in the amount of $2,259. And I move that we accept and approve payroll and these pay orders as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Nick. Any discussion? I would like to ask, Rebecca, do you get these, do you get these emails from Karen? Do you have the numbers
With
in
the
front of you?
numbers?
Okay, so I'm gonna forward them to you so you can see them, so you don't have to. Right,
Trying to type
okay.
it as we're
So,
doing it.
yeah. All right, so All right, thank you for that. All those in favor of approving payroll and these pay orders as presented? Thank you, everybody. And so we have a public session for the budget on November 15th, which is 2 weeks from today, and that's at 6 p.m. right before the regularly scheduled meeting. I put a blurb in the Wallingford Town newsletter, and I will post that blurb in the Front Porch Forum. If I could have representatives or from other towns, or if my community engagement.
Liz, I can do the Front Porch Forum now, so.
For everybody?
Finally sorted that out with
good.
them to be
Okay,
able to
great.
do that. Yeah, so I can cover that.
Super.
And we'll also make sure it's in principals newsletters going out to remind folks.
Okay,
that.
great.
So I'll do those two.
Great, super. So it's going to be lifted up in the community in the hopes of,
Here, Liz?
yes.
Library will do.
Yeah.
And the next regular meeting of the Finance Committee is Thursday, the 16th at 4 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other legal business?
None I'm aware of.
Any? Nope. Agenda for next time.
Okay, so next meeting we have scheduled for Clarendon.
Yep.
And Jane is prepping for that presentation if that still works for the board. So we would do a Clarendon presentation. I want to bring something to you about increasing subpay. So we increased it a little bit last year. We're gonna have to increase it this year, just looking at minimum wage and what our sub rate is for para educators. So I was talking with the leadership team around, hey, staffing shortages, what are we doing about staffing shortages? And we were looking at our sub rates, and I had a conversation with Stan around, well, do we wait till January to do it, or why not just do it now? And the cost would not be such a large cost that doing it now, I think, makes sense. If we can make it a little easier to get substitutes in the building, why not? You know, why wait till January? So I'm gonna bring you a sub-pay increase proposal, if folks are comfortable with that. We do have on our schedule checking back in on board goals or doing a board education piece. So we could do something maybe around school finance and how all that stuff works, because that's wonderful, fun, interesting information that is really challenging to understand. So that's just the thought. If you wanted to do some board education stuff, we could maybe do ed finance. Or if you want to check back in on goals and look at, hey, how are we doing? What are we keeping in our heads? What are we forgetting about that we should maybe be thinking about?
Didn't the Vermont School Board Association just come out with something in terms of
finance stuff?
Finance stuff.
They've got some resources that are older. They may have something new that I haven't looked at yet.
I just saw something.
Maybe.
Because when I was on their website today looking for stuff.
Could be that I just haven't come across it yet.
Yeah.
It's timely. I mean,
Yeah,
now
I
would
was
be the
just gonna
time
say
to put something out.
finance seems timely because we're coming up on voting and budgeting and.
Yeah.
They usually do
Could you
about
take a
this time.
look at that, Brian?
Oh, yeah. And if we want to lean towards board education and talking through ed finance and really sorting through how this stuff works so that the board understands it, I'm comfortable bringing something prepped for that. Is that?
Because I think we're okay in terms of our board goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for right
They're
now.
not gonna change real soon.
Yeah.
And I think it's more important that we look at our knowledge.
Well, and when we built this schedule, we wanted to keep the board education piece there. So we can keep checking in and deciding, is it time to look at goals or is it time for an education piece? We can be flexible about scheduling that. So I think that's totally fine. So those would be the Clarendon one and the board education piece. Those would be our bigger chunks. Sub-pay is going to be a small one. You know, we may have some other small pieces to bring too, but that would be the bulk of our meeting. Anything we're forgetting or missing, Nick?
Can we just add a note or a bullet to talk about busing?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know we've had
The
a bunch
consolidated.
of consolidated,
Yep.
and a lot of that's probably
Yeah.
staffing problems.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the handful of people I
Yeah.
converse with, they're always
Yeah.
like, oh, it's consolidated again.
Yep.
What the?
I have a question about that, because we've talked about, start times.
Yeah.
Going back to or considering whether,
Yep.
an earlier start time for the elementary schools and a later start time for Mill River, would that alleviate the busing situation? Can that be part of the discussion?
Yeah, we can talk about that. What I can say is we can put that on the agenda. If you want something specific from me, let me know what you want, because I don't wanna.
Can we pull Connie for that meeting?
Yeah, we could
Because
see
she
if,
is our
we could see if Connie can make it. I think part of the challenge is,
It's Clarendon.
well,
It's-
the commitment we have made is that we are not gonna cancel a route. So that we are never gonna say, sorry, kids, you can't get on a bus and get to school.
No, and that's fine.
But that's why we're doing consolidated routes. To not do consolidated routes, we'd have to either hire somebody or
And
we'd have to.
I think some of it, and we don't have to
Yeah.
beat it to death tonight,
Yeah.
is, can we spend some time on the agenda just to
Yeah.
beat it around? And
Yeah.
I know we've had the discussion in the past, does it make sense to just say consolidated and
We're
it's just
done with
gonna
it.
be
Yeah.
consolidated?
Yep.
That way, one day it's
Well,
not
and we
consolidated,
also
and the
have
next day it's
winter coming
consolidated.
up.
Sure. No.
And everything else, so.
And Nick, that's helpful. If the board wants to hear, hey, do we think we just need to be consolidated and we're done? That gives me something to bring. Otherwise, the only thing I'd be bringing is, sorry, we can't
Well,
staff enough to.
I hear, and
do
again,
anything
I'm only,
different. Yeah.
we've been down this road before.
Yeah.
I'm only hearing from like 5
Yeah.
different parents, and I know other people don't
Yeah.
hear from a lot of people.
Well, and
So it's frustrating that one day we're on a normal schedule,
Yeah.
the next day we're on a consolidated, and the bus is 5-minute swing either way, so they're like, did I miss the bus? Did I not miss the bus?
And last year, we had that conversation right at the end of the year. And we didn't go that route because we hired drivers. And then we got to the start of the year, and we didn't have all the drivers we thought we had. So I think it's reasonable to have that conversation again.
Yeah, can we?
We didn't think we were gonna have to, but I think that's reasonable.
And winter's coming up, and honestly, Matt, now that they drive by our houses, like going down the hill to the covered bridge, I'm not quite sure the bus is gonna make it.
I don't think it'll
During the winter.
Turning around Knipes Road, they're coming back up. I don't think
No,
momentum.
but if we can maybe have Connie, see if she can
Yeah.
come make an appearance and kind of do
you
something
know,
too.
Or
the-
even virtual.
No, we're in Clarendon.
Yeah.
We
But-
have a hard time with
Clarendon.
virtual.
If there's something else you would like,
I'd like to keep the Tinmouth update on there.
Yeah.
That would take 3 minutes.
yeah, I can keep that on there just to tell you that there are no changes. Because I can tell you we're on track for July 1.
I mean, what's
so-
going on?
January.
And it could be January, we're
Yep.
gonna do this.
Yep.
I don't want them to think we've abandoned them by
Yep.
not talking about it.
Yeah, as long as you're comfortable with the update, might just be everything's still on track. Yeah.
I'm fine.
And the busing, if there's something that somebody would like to hear that isn't, that, hey, should we just be consolidated and those are our regular routes? That's what I'll come prepared to share. If you want something else, let me know.
Well, I think it would be nice to hear from Connie,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
just because, and let her
Yeah.
express the difficulties
We
she's
used to hear
having,
from-
or what's working well, what's not,
Yeah.
because she's new.
What's the pain point?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we used to
Other
hear
than
from Nicole every
drivers.
once in a while, so,
Yeah, definitely.
all right,
Awesome.
We'll need the information about the new board member. Like,
yes.
update.
We will have an update,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, good point, Josh.
All right, anything else? Do we need an executive session?
None that I'm aware of.
All right,
Oh,
what?
I will send an email out to try and land on a virtual special meeting to adopt a new board member, so. I'll do
Depending
that.
on-
We can
yeah.
do that over email, just picking a time. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm done. Thanks.
All right, we all good? Adjourned
If we adopt.
Thank you,
at
everybody.
8:43.
Thanks, everybody.